I'm Amber. Growing up, I had everything a kid could want, at least on the surface. Our big house in the suburbs was always spotless, thanks to my stay-at-home mom's obsessive cleaning. Dad brought home the big bucks as some hotshot engineering exec. My little brother Jake and I went to the fanciest private school in town. But all that glitz and money couldn't make up for what was missing: my parents' love and attention. From the day Jake was born, it was clear he was the golden child. Mom and Dad fawned over his every move, while I faded into the background. When Jake started playing hockey at age 5, you'd have thought he'd just won Olympic gold from how our parents reacted. "That's our future NHL star," Dad would crow to anyone who'd listen. "Mark my words, Jake's gonna be the next Gretzky." Meanwhile, I'd be sitting there with my straight-A report card, not even warranting a good job, kiddo. But hey, that's life when you're the less-loved child, right? As the years went by, Jake's hockey obsession only grew, fueled by our parents' relentless push for him to succeed. They poured obscene amounts of money into the best gear, private coaches, and elite summer camps. Jake lived and breathed hockey, his entire identity wrapped up in being the next big thing. Don't get me wrong, I loved my brother. Jake was a good kid, even if he could be a brat sometimes. It wasn't his fault our parents put him on such a pedestal. But as I watched him lace up those $500 skates while I was still wearing hand-me-downs, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of resentment. Little did I know, those feelings would only intensify in the years to come. As I headed off to college and started building my own life, Jake's hockey career would continue to dominate our family dynamic. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's back up a bit. Despite feeling like a perpetual afterthought at home, I managed to carve out my own path. I busted my ass in school and landed a spot at a great college, studying interior design. It was my passion, the one thing that was truly mine, not tainted by Jake's shadow. College life was a whirlwind of new experiences and freedom. I threw myself into my studies, determined to make the most of this opportunity to forge my own path. The constant weight of being the less favored child seemed to lift a little with each passing day away from home. I rarely called my parents, and when I did, the conversations were brief and superficial. It wasn't until my junior year that I got a real update on what was happening back home, and it wasn't pretty. "Amber, you won't believe this nonsense," Mom huffed during one of our infrequent calls. "Jake's coach is being completely unreasonable. He's barely letting Jake play." I rolled my eyes, thankful she couldn't see me through the phone. "Oh, what's going on? Your brother is 16 now, and suddenly he's not getting the ice time he deserves. We've invested so much in his training, and now he's just warming the bench. Your father and I have tried talking to the coach, even the team owner, but they won't listen." Time marched on, and before I knew it, I was donning my cap and gown, ready to graduate. As I scanned the crowd for my family, I spotted them easily. They were the ones looking distracted and checking their phones every few minutes. After the ceremony, I made my way over to them, diploma in hand and a proud smile on my face. "Congrats, sweetie," Dad said, giving me a quick hug. "Listen, we can't stay long. Jake's got a big game tonight, and we promised we'd be there early to talk strategy with his coach." I watched them hurry away, my graduation gown suddenly feeling heavy on my shoulders. Same old story, different day. A few months later, I was settled into my new apartment and starting my dream job as an interior designer. I loved every minute of it, the creativity, the challenge, the satisfaction of seeing a space transform under my vision. One evening, as I was sketching out ideas for a client, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Jake's contract wasn't renewed. He's devastated. Your father's looking for an agent to find him a new team. Please call your brother, he won't talk to anyone." I stared at the message, a mix of emotions swirling in my chest. Part of me felt bad for Jake, I knew how much hockey meant to him. But another part, a part one wasn't proud of, felt a twinge of satisfaction. Maybe now my parents would realize that there was more to life than hockey. I didn't call Jake that night. Or the next. I told myself I was too busy with work, but deep down, I knew I was avoiding the drama. It was easier to stay focused on my own life, on building the career I'd always dreamed of. Weeks turned into months. I heard snippets from my parents about Jake's ongoing search for a new team, about the agents and trials and constant disappointments. But it all felt distant, like news from another world. I threw myself into my work, taking on more clients and pushing myself to new creative heights. My designs were getting noticed, and I was building a solid reputation in the field. Just when I'd resigned myself to focusing solely on my career, love came knocking in the form of Eric. We met at a client's housewarming party. He was the charming guy who spilled red wine on the pristine white carpet I'd so carefully selected. As I helped him clean up the mess, we got to talking, and before I knew it, we'd spent the entire evening in our own little bubble. Our relationship blossomed quickly. Within 6 months, we were practically inseparable. By our first anniversary, we decided to move in together. Those 2 years of cohabitation were filled with laughter, love, and the kind of domestic bliss I'd always envied in others, but never thought I'd have for myself. On my 25th birthday, Eric took me out for what I thought was a simple celebratory dinner. As we strolled through the park after our meal, he suddenly dropped to one knee, pulling out a small velvet box. As Eric slipped the gorgeous ring onto my finger, I felt a surge of joy, and then a familiar pang of anxiety. How would my parents react? Would they even care? To my surprise, when I called to share the news, my parents seemed genuinely excited. They insisted on meeting Eric right away, and even offered to host a dinner for us. I was cautiously optimistic as we drove to my childhood home that weekend. The dinner started off well enough. My parents welcomed Eric warmly, and for once, I felt like the center of attention. But as the main course arrived, the conversation took an all too familiar turn. "So, Eric," my dad said, refilling his wine glass, "did Amber tell you about her brother Jake? He's quite the hockey player, you know." I felt my heart sink as my parents launched into a detailed account of Jake's latest attempts to revive his hockey career. Eric, bless him, tried to steer the conversation back to our engagement several times, but it was like trying to stop a runaway train. Despite this, the evening ended on a positive note. My parents insisted on paying for dinner and even gave us their blessing. As we left, Mom hugged me tightly and whispered, "I'm so happy for you, sweetheart. Let's get together soon to start planning, okay?" Over the next few weeks, I found myself in a whirlwind of wedding preparations. To my amazement, my mother became my constant companion in this journey. We met for coffee to discuss color schemes, spent weekends visiting venues, and even had a tearful moment together as I tried on wedding dresses. Even Dad got in on the action. He insisted on paying for half of the wedding expenses, negotiating with Eric's parents like it was a business deal he was determined to win. I caught him one evening, poring over seating charts with the intensity he usually reserved for Jake's hockey strategies. "Dad?" I said, surprised. "You don't have to do that. We can handle the seating arrangements." He looked up at me, a soft smile on his face. "Nonsense, pumpkin. This is your big day. I want everything to be perfect." I felt a warmth spread through my chest. This was all I'd ever wanted, to feel like I mattered to my parents, to be the focus of their attention and love. One sunny afternoon, I sat at my parents' dining room table, surrounded by color swatches and flower catalogs. Mom and Eric's mother, Linda, were engaged in a heated debate about napkin colors. "I'm telling you, cream is the way to go," Mom insisted, waving a swatch like a flag. "It's classic, elegant, and goes with everything." Linda shook her head firmly. "But blush would tie in so beautifully with the bridesmaids' dresses. Amber, what do you think?" I couldn't help but smile. "Honestly, I think either would look lovely." Both women looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "Amber, dear," Mom said, patting my hand, "this is your special day. Every detail matters." I bit back a laugh. Who would have thought I'd ever see my mother so invested in something related to me? It was almost comical. The great napkin debate was followed by an equally passionate discussion about the music playlist. Dad and Eric's father, Tom, Nearly came to blows over whether we should have a live band or a DJ. I exchanged an amused glance with Eric. Maybe we could have both? I suggested. A band for the ceremony and dinner, and a DJ for the dance party after? Both men looked at me with newfound respect. Now that's using your noggin, Dad said proudly. See, Tom? My girls got it all figured out. But even as I basked in this newfound parental attention, reality had a way of creeping in. Just as we were finalizing the venue details, Mom's phone buzzed. Her face lit up as she read the message. Oh, this is wonderful news. Jake's got a tryout with a team in Calgary next week. And just like that, the spell was broken. That's great, I said, trying to keep the disappointment out of my voice. We'll need to reschedule our cake tasting, Mom said, already typing furiously on her phone. Your father and I need to fly out with Jake. This could be his big break. This became a recurring theme over the next few weeks. For every wedding plan we managed to nail down, there was a Jake-related interruption. A venue walkthrough was cancelled because of Jake's crucial training session. A meeting with the florist was cut short when my parents had to rush Jake to a last-minute interview with a scout. One evening, as Eric and I were going over the guest list, I broke down. I don't get it, I sobbed into Eric's shoulder. They're spending thousands on flights and hotels for Jake's hockey pipe dream, but they can't stick around for one lousy florist appointment? Eric held me close, stroking my hair. I know it's hard, babe. But hey, at least they're helping with the wedding costs, right? That's something. I nodded, wiping my eyes. He was right, of course. The old Amber would have been furious, ready to call off the whole thing and elope. But I was trying to be more understanding, more mature. The days flew by in a flurry of final wedding preparations. Despite the occasional Jake-related hiccup, I was riding high on a wave of excitement and anticipation. Everything was falling into place, the venue was perfect, the flowers were ordered, and my dress fit like a dream. I could almost taste the happiness that awaited me on my big day. Just a week before the wedding, I was going over last-minute details with our planner when my phone buzzed. Mom's name flashed on the screen. Hi, Mom. I was just about to call you about the rehearsal dinner tomorrow. Amber, honey, Mom cut in, her voice tense. About that, we need to talk. Your father has an urgent business trip, and we're going to have to reschedule the rehearsal. And, well, we might need to postpone the wedding date too. I felt like I'd been doused with ice water. I'm sorry, what? Mom, please tell me you're joking. I wish I was, dear. But your father's job is very important, you know that. And I need to go with him for support. We'll let you know when we're back and we can set a new date then. My mind was reeling. This couldn't be happening. Not now, not when we were so close. Mom, the wedding is in a week. We can't just postpone it. What about all the guests? The vendors? Everything's paid for. I know it's inconvenient, Amber, but sometimes these things happen. You'll understand when you're older. I ended the call in a daze, my carefully constructed world crumbling around me. How could they do this? After all the progress we'd made, all the moments I thought we'd shared, was I still so unimportant to them? Eric found me an hour later, curled up on our bed, tears streaming down my face. I poured out the whole story, my words punctuated by sobs. We spent the next few hours brainstorming solutions. Could we postpone? What would it cost? Could we do it without them? Nothing felt right. As night fell, I found myself mindlessly scrolling through social media, seeking any distraction from the chaos in my head. That's when I saw it, a post from Jake that made my blood run cold. Eastern Europe, here I come. Can't wait to show these European clubs what real hockey looks like. Thanks Mom and Dad for always having my back. This is gonna be my big break, I can feel it. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. There was no business trip. My parents were flying halfway across the world for yet another of Jake's hockey pipe dreams, and they were willing to sacrifice my wedding to do it. With trembling fingers, I hit the call button next to Jake's name. Each ring felt like an eternity as I paced our living room, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. "Hey, sis," Jake's cheery voice came through the speaker. "What's up?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "Jake, I just saw your post about going to Eastern Europe. What's going on?" "Oh man, it's incredible," he gushed, his excitement palpable even through the phone. "Mom and Dad are the best, you know? They're paying for everything, the flight, my agent, a swanky hotel. They're even coming with me for support. Can you believe it?" My heart sank. So it was true. "When exactly are you going?" I asked, dreading the answer. "We leave next Friday. The tryouts start on Sunday, and..." "Next Friday?" I cut him off, my voice rising. "Jake, that's my wedding day." There was a pause, then Jake chuckled. "Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Well, you can always reschedule, right? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me." I felt like I'd been slapped. "Reschedule? Jake, it's my wedding. How can you even suggest that?" "Look, Amber," he said, his tone suddenly dismissive, "my career is more important than any wedding. You can get married any day, but this might be my last chance to make it big in hockey." Something snapped inside me. Years of pent-up frustration and hurt came pouring out. "Are you kidding me? Do you have any idea how many times I've been pushed aside for your hockey dreams? How many times Mom and Dad have chosen you over me? And now you want me to give up my wedding day?" "Hey, it's not my fault Mom and Dad see my potential," Jake shot back. "Don't hate the player, hate the game, sis." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Jake, you're 22 years old. Don't you think it's time you handled your own career without Mom and Dad holding your hand?" He laughed, the sound grating on my already frayed nerves. "Why would I do that when they're so willing to help? I'd be stupid to turn down their support. Can't you see how selfish you're being?" I pleaded, a last desperate attempt to reach him. "Just this once, can't you step back and let this be about me?" "Sorry, sis," Jake replied, not sounding sorry at all. "I'm not concerned about your future. I'm not sacrificing my career for your little party." The line went dead, leaving me standing in shocked silence. I couldn't believe it. My own brother, so dismissive of one of the most significant moments of my life. And my parents, willing to lie to me, to abandon me on my wedding day for yet another of Jake's hockey pipe dreams. Fury bubbled up inside me, hot and overwhelming. Why should I have to put my life on pause for Jake? Why couldn't my parents be honest with me? The unfairness of it all was suffocating. I sank onto the couch, my mind reeling. All those years of trying to understand, of making excuses for their behavior, of hoping things would change, it all felt so pointless now. The drive to my parents' house was tense, the air thick with unspoken words. Eric squeezed my hand reassuringly as we pulled into the driveway. "You've got this," he whispered, and I nodded, drawing strength from his support. Mom answered the door, her smile faltering as she took in our serious expressions. "Amber, Eric, what a surprise. Come in, come in." We found Dad in the living room, engrossed in what looked suspiciously like flight bookings on his laptop. He quickly closed it as we entered. "Mom, Dad," I began, my voice steadier than I felt, "we need to talk about the wedding. And about Jake's trip to Europe." Their faces fell, guilt flashing across their features before they composed themselves. "What about Jake?" Dad asked, feigning innocence. "I told you, I have an important business trip." "Stop," I cut him off, my patience wearing thin. "I know the truth. Jake told me everything." A heavy silence fell over the room. Mom and Dad exchanged glances, their charade crumbling. "All right," Mom sighed. "Yes, we're going with Jake to Europe for his hockey tryouts. But Amber, you have to understand." "Understand what?" I interrupted, years of pent-up frustration bubbling to the surface. "That once again, you're putting Jake first?" That my wedding day means nothing compared to his hockey career? Dad's face hardened. Now listen here, young lady. You're being selfish. This is Jake's future we're talking about. He's talented, and this could be his big break. As his family, we need to support him. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Selfish? Me? What about all the times you've chosen Jake over me? My graduations, my achievements, and now my wedding? When has it ever been about me? Amber, Mom pleaded, you're an adult now. You have your career, your life with Eric. Jake still needs our help too. To what? I shot back. To chase a dream that's clearly not happening? He's 22, for God's sake. When will you let him stand on his own 2 feet? The room fell silent again, my words hanging in the air. Then, I took a deep breath and made my decision. I'm not canceling or postponing the wedding. If you choose not to be there, that's on you. I'm done putting my life on hold for Jake's ambitions. My parents stared at me, shock evident on their faces. Then Dad's expression darkened. Now you listen here, he growled, jabbing a finger in my direction. We're paying for half of this wedding. You'll do as we say, or we'll cancel every payment we've made. You can't afford this wedding without us. I felt Eric tense beside me, ready to jump to my defense, but I squeezed his hand, silently asking him to let me handle this. Actually, Dad, I said, my voice calm despite the storm of emotions inside me, we can. Eric and I are prepared to take out a loan to cover your half. We'll pay you back in full for every cent you've spent. The next week was a whirlwind. We went ahead with the wedding rehearsal, the bachelor and bachelorette parties, all the final preparations. Through it all, a small part of me kept hoping that my parents would come to their senses, that they'd show up and apologize. They didn't. The morning of my wedding day dawned bright and clear, as if the universe itself was celebrating with us. The ceremony was everything I'd ever dreamed of and more. As I walked down the aisle, not on my father's arm but on my own, a symbol of the strength I'd found within myself, I saw Eric waiting for me, his face alight with love and joy. In that moment, I knew I'd made the right choice. We exchanged vows, our voices steady and sure, promising to love and support each other through whatever life might throw our way. As we sealed our union with a kiss, the cheers and applause from our friends and chosen family washed over us like a wave of pure love. The reception was a blur of laughter, dancing, and celebration. We ate, drank, and made merry, surrounded by people who truly cared about us. The photo shoot captured moments of pure, unadulterated happiness, Eric and I gazing into each other's eyes, our friends lifting us onto their shoulders, all of us laughing as we attempted a group dance number. It wasn't until a week after we returned from our honeymoon that reality came knocking. My phone lit up with my mother's number. Amber, sweetie, her voice came through, sounding tired and strained. We're back from Europe. Can we meet? We need to talk. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. No, Mom. I don't think that's a good idea. But your brother didn't make the team. He's devastated, Amber. He needs his big sister right now. I closed my eyes, fighting back the familiar urge to cave in, to be the understanding one once again. I'm sorry to hear that, Mom. But that's not my problem anymore. Please don't call me again. Focus on Jake, he clearly needs you more than I do. I ended the call and blocked their numbers, feeling a mixture of sadness and relief wash over me. The next day, I transferred the full amount my parents had contributed to the wedding into their account. It was a significant sum, and Eric and I would be paying off the loan for a while, but it felt worth it for the freedom it bought us. A few weeks later, my friend Liv called to tell me about a social media post my parents had made. They painted me as the villain, calling me selfish for getting married without them, lamenting how heartbroken my father was at not walking me down the aisle. The comments were full of sympathetic responses from people who didn't know the whole story. But then, my cousins and aunts and uncles, the ones who had been there, who had seen the years of neglect and favoritism, they stepped in. They shared the truth, calling out my parents for their behavior, for consistently putting Jake's interests above mine. I was touched by their support, but I didn't engage. That chapter of my life was closed. Months passed, and life settled into a beautiful new rhythm. Eric and I threw ourselves into our careers, traveled, and made plans for our future. When we found out we were expecting our first child, our joy was untainted by family drama. Occasionally, news of Jake and my parents would reach me through the family grapevine. Jake had started drinking heavily after his hockey dreams fell through. My parents were frantically trying to fix him, dragging him from one therapist to another. Part of me felt sorry for them, for the mess they'd created with their favoritism and enabling. But a larger part of me knew it wasn't my burden to bear. As I sat in the nursery Eric and I had lovingly prepared for our baby, my hand resting on my growing belly, I realized something profound. The family I'd always longed for, the love and support I'd craved, I was creating it right here, right now.